Since the introduction of the V-class idea, we've been able to start making good on that initial promise that it allows us a new avenue to further develop different types of sounds. Now, so when we first launched it, we talked about the utility of how you could make a guitar with great dynamic range and one with great sustain, with super accurate intonation. Now, one of the parts that was yet to be seen was that design allows us the ability to deliberately create different kinds of sounds. So we can deliberately create different personalities in the guitars. And that's something that we get to continue pursuing as we move into the future. So this year, with the addition of these new pieces into our Builder's Edition collection, the 912, the 324, the 816, and the 652, we've seen that design, that platform, sweep across a lot of the guitars that we're building, from that original K14 to the Grand Pacific guitars, now these other unique voices. It's something that allows us a lot of latitude to create different, distinct personalities to fit different musical styles. So the 324 guitar, the 324 CE Builder's Edition instrument, that was a particularly important piece for us to introduce, and it was one that I was really excited about. In fact, if you go back a number of years, what players don't realize, that was the first version of what became the Builder's Edition guitar. So when I designed this instrument, I was looking at how can I make the guitar better? Now, what is better? Better to me is a guitar that serves a musician well. It serves their sonic needs. I want to make them comfortable with the instrument. I want it to fit the way they want to play it. So I took away a lot of the the lavish details, the ornamentation, and put our efforts on just the sonic part. How can we make it sound great? How can we make it feel great? How can we make it play great? And I want to make it accessible to musicians in that way. I mean, by no means will I say that it's an inexpensive guitar, because it's not. But it's a guitar that's within the means of a musician who could go make an entire life in music with that guitar. Now, one of the most exciting attributes with this instrument is with the materials. Now, when we think of our forward-thinking forestry projects, the Koa project in Hawaii, the Ebony project in Africa, one of the common themes that you hear is in 25 years, or in 30 years, or in 100 years. That's amazing work to do. And it's important to be working continuously toward improving the condition of those resources. But that's not the only part of the story. One of the elements that we're adding into our our quiver, so to speak, is the introduction of what we call urban forests. So if you look at any city in the world and you were to imagine all the buildings disappearing, what you're left with is a forest of trees. Now, unlike a natural forest, those trees were put there on purpose. They were put there for a reason, whether it was a noise barrier or a windbreak, or for their cooling value, the shade that you get from underneath it. Every city is filled with trees. As it stands now, we look at those, and when they become elderly trees, or they're diseased, or they start to pose a liability, a city will make a decision to have that tree removed before it does some damage. Maybe it falls on a building or cars or, God forbid, a person. So those trees are taken out by the city's choice and replanted with a younger tree to start enjoying that benefit all over. Well, a number of years ago, Scott Paul and Bob and I, we had a lot of parallel thoughts that led us into investigating that, with the thought that maybe we could build something of value out of these trees. So we came into that idea and went, not only could we make do with these, some of these are incredible guitar woods. So this wood that we're building this guitar with, we call it urban ash. It's also known as chamel ash. This is a wood that grows throughout Southern California, right in our own backyard, but it has these amazing musical characteristics that make it super useful for this guitar. So that was one of the ingredients that we intentionally designed this instrument around, to make best use of that resource. So that's an exciting thing, that we get to partner with West Coast arborists and different cities to start working with this resource and build some incredible instruments out of it, and add that into our forestry model. So this guitar that I'm holding is an 816 CE Builder's Edition. Now, this was a really interesting piece to introduce into our Builder's Edition collection. And for a lot of musicians, they'll look at that and kind of scratch their heads a little bit because it has some elements kind of adopted from the boutique guitar making world. Now, for a lot of years, I got the privilege of building some really unique custom one-off guitars for real, high caliber players. And so I'm familiar with a lot of the guitar making that would go into a piece like this. Now, none of these are entirely new ideas. The partial cutaway, the secondary sound port. But when I can combine these elements with this particular body shape on the V-Class foundation, we can make a very unique sonic experience. It's almost like the opera singer of guitars. Like when you present and play a note, it's like the note is presented to the listener and the player that radiates outward for a really unique experience. So this is a guitar that we're really thrilled to be introducing as part of our Builder's Edition collection.